The front door of the grand mansion slammed open just after noon, and the sound echoed through every polished hallway like a warning no one inside had expected. Gideon Mercer had returned home 3 days earlier than anyone anticipated after cutting short an important overseas business trip because an uneasy feeling refused to leave his heart. He expected to surprise his pregnant wife with flowers, laughter, and the promise that he would never stay away so long again. Instead, the first thing he saw was a broken ceramic bowl lying near the staircase, a faded blanket folded on the cold marble floor, and tiny drops of blood leading toward the back of the house. In that heartbreaking instant, Gideon realized someone had turned the woman he loved into a stranger inside her own home. If you believe kindness, forgiveness, hope, and second chances can change lives, please like this video, leave a comment, share this story with someone you care about, and subscribe to our channel so our community can continue sharing stories that remind us compassion always matters. Gideon had spent years building Mercer Holdings into one of the country's most respected companies, but every achievement in his life felt small compared to marrying Evelyn Hartwell. She had entered his world without caring about wealth or influence, seeing only the thoughtful man hidden beneath endless meetings and responsibilities. Her warmth slowly softened the loneliness that had followed him since childhood, especially after his father passed away, leaving him under the strict guidance of his mother, Beatrice Mercer. Elegant, disciplined, and admired by high society, Beatrice believed appearances mattered more than feelings. She expected perfection from everyone around her and considered emotion a weakness that should never be displayed in public. When Gideon married Evelyn despite his mother's objections, he believed time would heal the distance between them. Evelyn never responded to criticism with anger. She prepared meals Beatrice preferred, attended charity events beside her with genuine respect, and overlooked countless cold remarks because she wanted peace inside the family. When she discovered she was expecting their first child, she imagined the baby would unite everyone. Gideon promised to reduce his travel schedule after completing one final international negotiation that would secure the company's future. Although leaving his pregnant wife behind troubled him, Evelyn smiled through her worries and encouraged him to go, believing everything would be fine for a few weeks. The moment Gideon's car disappeared through the estate gates, the atmosphere inside the mansion quietly changed. Beatrice stopped pretending to tolerate Evelyn and began treating her like an unwanted guest living under someone else's roof. She insisted pregnancy was not an excuse for resting, reminding Evelyn that women in earlier generations worked harder without complaint. Every morning became a test of endurance. Evelyn was expected to climb endless stairs, supervise household staff, polish silver decorations before important visitors arrived, and stand for hours during afternoon gatherings despite growing exhaustion. Whenever she looked pale or held her aching back, Beatrice accused her of seeking attention. The servants noticed everything but feared losing the jobs that supported their own families. Most lowered their eyes in silence, though an elderly housekeeper named Margaret quietly slipped fruit, water, and comforting smiles into Evelyn's hands whenever Beatrice was elsewhere. Those small acts of kindness became precious reminders that goodness still existed beneath the mansion's heavy silence. As Evelyn entered her 7th month of pregnancy, her doctor strongly recommended avoiding unnecessary physical strain. Beatrice dismissed the medical advice as exaggeration. She claimed wealthy women had become too delicate and insisted the family reputation demanded that Evelyn continue attending social luncheons with flawless posture and a cheerful face. Evelyn often returned to her room fighting tears, not because of the physical pain alone, but because she desperately wanted the child growing inside her to feel loved instead of surrounded by tension. Gideon called every afternoon from abroad. Each conversation sounded strangely brief. Evelyn always insisted everything was wonderful because she refused to create conflict between a son and his mother while he carried enormous business responsibilities. Beatrice frequently remained nearby during those calls, making certain Evelyn revealed nothing about the reality inside the mansion. Gideon sensed something hidden beneath her gentle voice, yet every time he asked if she truly felt well, she answered with reassuring words that only deepened his confusion. Then came the afternoon that changed everything. A charity luncheon hosted inside the Mercer mansion attracted influential guests from across the city. Beatrice demanded absolute perfection. Evelyn, already weak after several sleepless nights, was instructed to carry decorative flower arrangements from room to room because several employees had been reassigned outside. While lifting one heavy arrangement, she suddenly became dizzy. The vase slipped from her hands and shattered across the marble floor. She instinctively protected her stomach as she stumbled, but her knee struck the sharp edge of broken porcelain, leaving a deep cut. Instead of rushing to help, Beatrice exploded with humiliation over the ruined centerpiece in front of respected guests. She ordered the bleeding Evelyn to clean the mess herself before anyone noticed. Trembling from pain and fear for her unborn baby, Evelyn knelt carefully and gathered the broken pieces while tears silently rolled down her cheeks. Margaret desperately tried to intervene but was sharply ordered away. Later that afternoon Evelyn experienced severe abdominal pain. She begged for permission to visit her doctor. Beatrice accused her of inventing another excuse to avoid responsibilities and ordered her to remain inside the mansion until the guests departed. Hours passed before Margaret secretly contacted the family physician, who immediately insisted Evelyn be brought in for examination. Before arrangements could be made, Gideon's unexpected return changed everything. Standing inside the entrance hall, Gideon followed the faint trail of blood toward the rear corridor where he found Evelyn sitting alone on a wooden bench near the laundry room, one hand resting protectively over her stomach. Her face had lost its healthy color, her dress was stained, and exhaustion filled her eyes. For several heartbreaking seconds neither of them moved. Then Evelyn looked up, and the relief she felt at seeing her husband overwhelmed every attempt to remain strong. She collapsed into his arms, no longer able to hide the truth. Gideon held her carefully, horrified by how light she felt. The confident woman he had kissed goodbye only weeks earlier looked emotionally shattered. Margaret quietly explained everything she had witnessed, apologizing through tears for not finding a way to stop it sooner. Every sentence struck Gideon harder than the last. His hands trembled, not from anger alone but from guilt. He realized the person he trusted most to protect his family had become the source of its deepest suffering. Without hesitation, Gideon carried Evelyn to his car and drove directly to the hospital. The doctors confirmed she had been dangerously overworked and severely dehydrated. Stress had placed both mother and baby at risk, but thankfully they arrived in time. After several anxious hours, the physician assured Gideon that with proper rest, careful monitoring, and a peaceful environment, both would recover. Relief washed over Gideon, followed almost immediately by heartbreak. Sitting beside Evelyn's hospital bed while sunlight streamed through the windows, he apologized again and again for leaving her alone. Evelyn never blamed him. She simply admitted she had hoped kindness would eventually soften Beatrice's heart. Instead, her silence had allowed the mistreatment to continue longer than it should have. When they returned to the mansion the following afternoon, Gideon gathered every employee in the main living room. Beatrice entered with her usual confidence, expecting another ordinary family discussion. Instead she found her son standing beside his wife, holding Evelyn's hand with unwavering determination. For the first time in his life, Gideon refused to let his mother's authority control the conversation. Calmly but firmly, he described every detail he had learned from Margaret, the medical reports, and several employees who finally found the courage to speak honestly. Each testimony painted the same painful picture. The elegant image Beatrice had protected for decades collapsed beneath the weight of undeniable truth. Beatrice initially defended herself by insisting discipline had been mistaken for cruelty. She claimed she only wanted Evelyn to become stronger. But as more voices confirmed the suffering they had witnessed, certainty disappeared from her expression. She looked toward Evelyn and saw not rebellion but quiet sadness. The young woman she had treated as unworthy still refused to answer hatred with hatred. Days later Beatrice visited the hospital chapel connected to the medical center where Evelyn attended follow-up appointments. Sitting alone in the peaceful room, she watched families celebrating healthy newborns while others prayed for loved ones facing difficult recoveries. For the first time in many years, she recognized how fear had shaped her own life. After losing her husband, she convinced herself that strict control could protect the family from future pain. Instead, that fear slowly transformed into coldness, pushing away the very people who loved her. The realization did not erase the harm she had caused, but it opened a door she had kept locked for years. Several weeks later Beatrice asked to meet Evelyn in the mansion's sunlit garden. She carried no expensive gifts or carefully prepared speeches. She simply admitted that pride had blinded her, fear had hardened her heart, and her actions had nearly cost the family something precious beyond measure. Tears filled her eyes as she offered a sincere apology without excuses. Forgiveness did not arrive instantly. Deep wounds rarely heal that way. Evelyn listened quietly, remembering every lonely afternoon, every cruel remark, and every moment she wondered whether she truly belonged. Yet she also understood that carrying bitterness forever would only burden the child she was preparing to welcome into the world. She accepted the apology, not because the past could be erased, but because she wanted the future to be different. From that day forward, Beatrice's actions slowly began matching her words. She accompanied Evelyn to medical appointments, learned about pregnancy care from the doctors she had once dismissed, and even converted a bright sitting room into a peaceful nursery filled with soft colors and handmade decorations. The servants noticed the difference immediately. Laughter gradually returned to the mansion, replacing the fearful silence that had dominated every hallway. Months later, under the warm afternoon sunlight pouring through the hospital windows, Evelyn gave birth to a healthy baby girl named Clara. Gideon wept openly as he held his daughter for the first time, overwhelmed by gratitude that both mother and child were safe. Beatrice stood nearby, quietly crying as well, realizing she had been given a second chance she never deserved but would spend the rest of her life honoring. The Mercer mansion no longer felt like a monument to wealth alone. It became a home where kindness carried greater value than reputation, where every employee was treated with dignity, and where little Clara grew surrounded by patience instead of fear. Gideon established new policies across his company supporting expectant mothers and family well-being, determined that no woman connected to his business would ever experience neglect similar to what Evelyn had endured. Margaret remained with the family, treasured not as a servant but as someone whose courage had protected an innocent life when others remained silent. Before this story comes to an end, please leave a meaningful comment sharing what you believe is the greatest lesson from this family's journey. Do you think genuine forgiveness is possible after deep betrayal, or must trust always be rebuilt one small step at a time? As the years passed, visitors often admired the beauty of the Mercer estate, never realizing its greatest transformation had nothing to do with its gardens or grand architecture. The true miracle was found inside the hearts of the people who lived there. A husband learned that love requires presence as much as provision. A wife proved that compassion can survive even unimaginable hurt. A grandmother discovered that strength without kindness becomes cruelty, while humility opens the door to healing. And a little girl grew up in a family that finally understood the priceless value of protecting one another with love instead of pride. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. May this story remind you that true greatness is never measured by the size of a mansion, but by the kindness that fills the hearts of the people who call it home.